If there's one place in the US where you don't want to live, it's Alaska. I'll prove it in 10 seconds without using the word cold. First, groceries in rural areas can cost 2 to 3 times the national average. A gallon of milk in remote communities can cost $8 to $12. Second, over 40% of adults in Alaska report symptoms of depression, and 25% of them are unable to get help. Third, it has one of the highest rates of violent crime in the country. Fourth, there's permafrost. When it's frozen, it's already a problem. When disturbed, the soil shifts, and when it thaws, it causes billions of dollars in damage. For the rest, Alaska sounds like a dream destination. Endless oil and natural gas, gold, zinc, coal. One of the highest average wages in the US, 3 of the largest cities in the country by land area, no state income tax, and on top of that, some residents literally get paid for living there. The oil dividend, roughly $1,000 per person. On paper, it looks like a rich land with space, resources, and opportunity, a place where money is made, not scraped together. You could easily think, why doesn't everyone want to live here? Then the obvious answer hits you. Cold. Fair, Alaska is brutally cold. Long winters, short summers, darkness that lasts for months. Most people stop their thinking right there, but the cold isn't the real problem. Cold is just the cover story. The real issues start once you try to live there. First, cost of living. Alaska is resource rich, but supply poor. Almost everything has to be shipped in. Food, fuel, building materials, even basic household items. Look up apartments in Anchorage, and you'll see rents pushing $2,000 a month before utilities. Heating alone close to $300 a month, making Alaska one of the most expensive states to keep warm. Gas prices are high too. Oil comes out of the ground there, sure, but fuel comes from refineries, not oil fields. Second, work. You don't just land a job. Most available work is physical, seasonal, or dangerous, such as mining, fishing, and truck driving. And trucking in Alaska isn't highway cruising. It's icy roads, remote routes, and weather that can freeze the foam inside your car seats solid overnight. Tires can literally develop flat spots just from sitting in the cold. Third, isolation. Alaska is connected to the lower 48 by one long road through Canada. Driving there can take anywhere from 2 to 7 days. Flying is easier, but even then you're far, emotionally and physically. Anchorage Airport is one of the busiest cargo hubs in the world for a reason. Alaska depends on planes to survive. Then there's the land itself. Permafrost shifts and cracks, roads buckle, foundations sink, buildings require constant maintenance just to stay level. The ground is never truly stable, and that instability seeps into daily life. And finally, the least obvious part, psychological pressure. Try living a year in a place where it's polar night, complete darkness for at least 60 days each year. Alaska has some of the highest rates of depression. It's not that people are weak, it's that the environment is heavy. Isolation and sparse population amplifies everything. So, Alaska isn't empty because people don't like the cold. It's empty because living there asks more of you than most places ever will. And not everyone wants to pay that price. In August 2025, Alaska barely escaped a horrifying disaster, and it all happened in a matter of seconds. Early on August 10th, a section of a mountain in Tracy Arm Fjord suddenly collapsed. Millions of tons of debris hit the fjord almost instantly. If tourist ships had already been inside the fjord, thousands of people would have ended up trapped there, swallowed by a gigantic wall of water ripping through the area. The impact triggered an enormous tsunami, the second largest on record in modern history and the biggest one linked to a landslide. The wave blasted through the fjord and shot up the opposite mountainside. The height of that impact wave was almost 1,580 feet. That's higher than nearly every skyscraper on Earth. Only a few buildings on the entire planet are taller. The force of the collapse was extreme too. Seismic sensors around the world detected it. At first, some instruments even perceived it as an earthquake. but there wasn't any tectonic activity. The water didn't settle down afterward either. For several days after the collapse, giant waves were rolling back and forth through the fjord. This dangerous motion is called a seiche. That's when instead of one wave hitting and disappearing, the entire body of water sloshes around like a shaken bathtub. But the most disturbing thing is what may have caused this catastrophe. You see, a huge glacier called the South Sawyer Glacier had been retreating deeper into the fjord as temperatures warmed. That glacier had actually been acting like a giant support wall for the surrounding mountains. It helped hold the steep valley walls together, and once the glacier pulled back beyond a certain point, the rock lost support. Cracks started spreading through the slope, rainwater seeped deep into the weakened rock, and the ground became unstable. Eventually, the entire mountainside gave way. But there's something that almost turned this natural disaster into a catastrophe involving thousands of people. Cruise ships were scheduled to enter Tracy Arm Fjord later that same morning. Tourists regularly travel there to see glaciers and wildlife from up close. If the mountainside had collapsed just a few hours later, ships would have been directly inside the fjord when the tsunami rushed through it. The ships would have been swallowed in a matter of seconds. In a place like Tracy Arm, there would have been almost nowhere to escape. A fjord is basically a long, narrow channel surrounded by steep mountain walls. So when millions of tons of rock slammed into the water, all that energy got trapped and squeezed inside the fjord. That's one reason the wave grew so unbelievably tall. When researchers later visited the area, the place looked destroyed. Massive parts of the mountainside looked ripped apart, and trees were snapped and thrown everywhere. Huge chunks of soil and plants had vanished, and the cliffs were covered with deep scars. Scientists compared the event to the infamous 1958 Lituya Bay mega tsunami in Alaska, the largest tsunami ever recorded. But there's one difference. The Lituya Bay disaster was triggered by an earthquake. Tracy Arm wasn't, and that made the collapse much harder to predict. There were almost no warning signs right before the mountain collapsed, so researchers had to work backward, studying satellite images, radar scans, and glacier movement to figure out what actually happened. And they found something unsettling. The South Sawyer Glacier had already been shrinking for decades because of rising temperatures. But in spring 2025 alone, the glacier suddenly retreated by around 1,640 feet. That's a huge amount of ice disappearing in just a few months. And this isn't happening in only one place. Many mountain slopes in Alaska and in other cold regions around the world are slowly cracking and becoming unstable above thinning glaciers. Alarmingly, we still don't fully understand how fast this process can happen. Most people hear the word tsunami and picture giant ocean waves caused by earthquakes. But events like Tracy Arm show that warming temperatures can also trigger massive landslide tsunamis. Right now, the risk of a cruise ship getting hit by one of these waves is still considered low. But people keep building more infrastructure in unstable areas. Think of ports, tourist routes, mining camps, oil facilities, and even coastal settlements. That means the stakes are rising. People travel to Alaska's fjords to see glaciers and the wild nature, but those places are becoming more dangerous with every passing year. Alaska is especially risky because it has steep mountains, narrow waterways, earthquakes, and rapidly melting glaciers all packed together. So now, scientists are hurrying to improve warning systems before the next collapse happens, because next time, people may not escape in time. Like it happened back in 1958. Late at night, a huge earthquake hit near a place called Lituya Bay. The quake literally ripped part of a mountain apart. About 40 million cubic yards of rock suddenly broke loose high above the bay, and all that rock dropped from around 3,000 feet straight into the water below. The impact launched a gigantic wall of water through the fjord. The water shot up the opposite mountainside and ripped away trees and soil all the way up to 1,720 feet. To this day, it's still the biggest tsunami wave ever recorded. Even worse, the wave didn't just stay inside the inlet. It surged over the land, separating the two parts of the bay, and kept racing through the fjord toward the Gulf of Alaska. Millions of trees got ripped out of the ground as easily as if they were toothpicks. Scientists later realized the whole area was basically built for a disaster like this. Lituya Bay is basically a giant narrow trap surrounded by steep mountains. So when all that rock slammed into the water, the energy had nowhere to go, and it exploded forward. There's a huge fault line running under the bay, and over time, glaciers carved deep channels through the mountains. Together, these features shaped a narrow waterway that acts almost like a cannon barrel, funneling the wave forward. So after the tsunami passed, the place looked totally apocalyptic. Entire forests were just gone. Just rock covered the mountainsides where trees had stood only minutes earlier. 5 people lost their lives in total. 2 met their demise near the mouth of the bay when their boat was overwhelmed almost instantly. Another fishing boat was lifted by the wave and carried over a forested spit. Sadly, those who were inside didn't survive the collision with dry land. A few fishermen escaped the worst by chance. They were anchored in the right spots where the water's force was slightly less extreme. The damage didn't stay local. In nearby Yakutat, the wave hit docks, bridges, and oil pipelines. It snapped underwater communication cables. Even farther out, places like Pelican and Sitka reported lighter but still substantial damage. By the way, people knew that Lituya Bay posed a serious danger long ago. When French explorer Jean-François de Gallup-La Pérouse reached Lituya Bay in 1786, he immediately noticed something unsettling. Around the narrow fjord in southeastern Alaska, the forests didn't fade into the landscape. Instead, they stopped abruptly, as if someone had sliced them with a blade. That sharp line through the trees felt almost unnatural. That was the first hint that this calm-looking bay was anything but safe. Then came the second one. La Pérouse sent 3 small boats toward the entrance of the bay to measure the depth of the water. The weather was calm, almost peaceful, no signs of danger at all. But inside the narrow fjord, there were powerful currents. The water twisted and surged in unexpected ways, pulling the boats underneath. 2 of the boats were flipped and swallowed by the waves. 26 men were lost, and their bodies were never recovered. The only island in the bay was later named Cenotaph, meaning empty tomb, in their memory. The name turned out to be disturbingly accurate. In 1899, an earthquake triggered a massive wave that destroyed a native village and took the lives of 5 people on the island. In 1936, another tsunami hit the bay again, repeating the pattern of sudden destruction.
You've probably heard that more than 50 ships and 20 aircraft have disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle area over the past few centuries. But do you know how many disappearances have occurred in the Alaska Triangle area since the 1970s? 20,000! 20,000 disappearances in the last 50 years. 2 questions. Why do so few people know about this? And what's going on there? Let's find out. The Alaska Triangle is an area that includes Anchorage, Juneau, and Utqiagvik. It's covered with lakes, forests, and of course, snow. The place gained a grim reputation after the disappearance of a small plane in October 1972. The pilot was Don Jones, and the passengers were U.S. House Majority Leader Thomas Hale Boggs Sr., Alaska Congressman Nick Begich, and his assistant. In short, there were big shots from the country's leadership. They flew out from Anchorage to Juneau and just disappeared into thin air. No plane debris, no messages from the pilot, No information at all. The plane just vanished. The search over a vast area lasted for several thousand hours to find the traces of the 4 missing people and the plane. A large team of rescuers, researchers, and specialists couldn't find even a small clue. From that moment on, the popularity of the Alaska Triangle began to grow. It turned out that the mysterious disappearance of the plane was just the tip of the iceberg. Even more planes and tourists disappeared in the area. The number was huge. Dozens, hundreds, thousands, and tens of thousands. Since 1988, more than 16,000 people have disappeared here. But what's the reason for these mysterious disappearances? There are plausible and logical theories. There are some fantastic ones, and there are some very creepy ones that are better not to listen to before going to bed. Do you know what makes this place different from others where people disappear? There are too many mysterious circumstances here. For example, in the Bermuda Triangle, ships disappear because of large waves, bad weather, and magnetic storms. No one knows for sure, but all of these disappearances seem quite logical. A ship sails to a place known for its storms and bad weather. It will be terrible and sad if it disappears, but it won't be a surprise. Let's take climbers or travelers who go to conquer snowy peaks or vast canyons. Bad weather, dangerous landscapes, and wild animals make such trips quite risky. So yes, unfortunately, people also disappear in such areas. The situation in the Alaska Triangle is different. Yeah, there have been bear attacks or falls into mountain crevices here, but people have also disappeared in safe conditions. One man disappeared without a trace from a large liner sailing through the cold territory. Another one just vanished from the top of a mountain in a touristy area filled with a lot of people. What happened to them? No one knows. Among thousands of mysteries, some cases have been solved. For example, scientists have managed to solve the mystery of the disappearance of Frank Southerden. A 25-year-old New Yorker went hunting in Alaska in the 1970s and never returned. Despite the search operations, no trace of this man was found. But then, almost 20 years later, near one of the rivers in northeastern Alaska, someone found a skull. In 2022, scientists conducted a DNA analysis of the find and confirmed that the skull belonged to the missing New Yorker. The study showed that with a high probability, Frank had met a bear and hadn't survived this encounter. This is just one solved mystery, but how about thousands of others? Tens of thousands of miles of coastline, more than 3 million lakes, cold, strong winds with snowfall, a large number of bears, crevices in rocks, and many other factors can be the reason for missing people. But maybe there's something else, something that makes people go crazy, hallucinate, get lost, and panic. And these are energy vortexes. There's no scientific evidence that such a strange phenomenon really occurs in the Alaska Triangle, but the theory looks pretty true. So, this is a massive invisible energy that moves clockwise or counterclockwise in the form of a vortex. These spirals can be energetic, magnetic, or electromagnetic. But what are they doing? Magnetic anomalies can disrupt the operation of the compass and other navigation instruments, and people can experience dizziness, disorientation, and even hallucination. According to the theory, people's behavior changes depending on the direction of the vortex. If it swirls up clockwise, then it has a positive effect on a person. People experience calmness, concentration, and a desire to create. Negative vortices do the opposite. They swirl counterclockwise and cause health problems. Bad mood, nightmares, depression, confusion, and malfunctions of electrical appliances. If the vortex theory turns out to be true, then there will be fewer questions about the Alaska Triangle. And while some believe that this place is associated with magnetic activity, others are sure that the Alaska Triangle attracts extraterrestrials. According to them, spaceships from other planets abduct people. This version is too far-fetched and stereotypical, so let's not dwell on it. Among all this majestic wilderness, vast forests, lakes, and rivers, there's something that stands out in the overall landscape. There is a scenic area in Alaska called Gakona, and it hides HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's a large research center that consists of hundreds of antennas that transmit radio signals to the ionosphere. The ionosphere is a layer of the planet's atmosphere where radio waves are exposed to solar radiation and other cosmic stuff. It all sounds rather complicated and incomprehensible. But when a mysterious high-tech station appears in the middle of a nature reserve where people disappear, many new theories pop up. Some believe that HAARP is capable of changing the weather, disabling satellites, and controlling people's minds. But would someone conduct experiments in such a place? And what's the point of this? In short, the HAARP version doesn't seem very realistic. Experienced travelers are sure that the main danger in the Alaska Triangle is Alaska itself, with all its harsh weather conditions. Others believe that secret experimental laboratories, energy anomalies, and visitors from other planets are to blame. But how about hearing the opinion of those who call this place home? Native tribes of Alaska have several sinister versions for you. Some people tell each other the legend of the mysterious Alaskan hairy man. It can imitate the voices of women and children to lure fishers and hunters into a trap. Imagine that a traveler passes through a forest and hears a woman's cry for help. "I'm stuck here, someone get me out, please." Of course, the guy runs to help. He gets to the place, but instead of a woman, he sees a big, hairy creature. The traveler's scream rings through the forest. Another legend tells us about the Keelut, a scary, dangerous monster that looks like a black, bald dog. It stalks people at night and does it stealthily, unnoticeably. Legends say that the Keelut leaves no footprints in the snow, so hunters are unaware of its pursuit. You don't hear the sound of crunching snow, but you certainly feel that there's something sinister behind you that wishes you harm. Ugh, it's scary. In the forests, mountains, and fields, you can meet the Alaskan hairy man and the Keelut. And in lakes and rivers, something scarier awaits you. Meet the Kalupalik, a human-like aquatic creature with green, scaly skin, long, wet hair, and long nails. According to the Inuit legends, this creature wears women's clothes and a bag where they put a kid. This monster sings sweet songs to lure little girls and boys closer to the water and take them away forever. Of course, the legends about all these monsters are just fairy tales. But the danger of the Alaska Triangle is quite real. Not because of all the rumors about anomalies and strange occurrences, but simply because it's a vast wilderness area. Such areas are dangerous in various parts of the world, not just Alaska. And in fact, all the mysteries surrounding disappearances are simply exaggerated by scary stories and popular media. After all, if you look at the statistics of disappearances in other parts of the country, it turns out that the Alaska Triangle is not such a unique place.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.